Welcome to Keto and Crime and Thought Crime. Today, part one of our expose on killer kids with a case in which I believe the young man was falsely accused. Now, this is a very controversial case, and I may get some hate for it, but that's my stance. I don't think he did it. But we're going to talk about Jordan Brown today, the case of the 11-year-old accused of murdering his stepmother, almost stepmother, and unborn little brother. So we're going to talk about that case today. But first, just want to give a shout out to everyone, my channel members, my patrons. You keep this channel running. If you want to join them, those links are down below. If you are new to the channel, welcome. We do true crime, history, a little bit of weight loss journey here. I think we have a good time. And it is our goal to get our community to 10,000 members by the end of the year. So if I have not earned your subscription, I hope today is the day. Please hit that button down below along with the bell notification. And with that being said, let's dive in to the Jordan Brown case. Jordan Brown was born August 12, 1997 in New Beaver, Pennsylvania, which is about 40 miles from Pittsburgh in western Pennsylvania, to Chris Brown and an unnamed mother. I've never really found a public statement of his mother's name, so I'm not going to put that here, even if I could find it. He and his father were best friends. Let's just put it that way. They grew up in living in the same small farmhouse in New Beaver. Along with his father, they enjoyed a lot of outdoor activities, which is common in rural Pennsylvania. A lot of hunting, a lot of camping, a lot of ATV activity, and sports. Jordan played Pee Wee football, in which his father was a coach. So he and his father were best buds, but Chris was lonely. And during the course of raising his son, he happened to become reacquainted with an old high school friend of his named Kenzie Houk, who was 26 at the time of her death. And she actually was a single parent herself of two little girls, Janessa and Adelaide, who were from a previous relationship or relationships, as it will turn out. But she was a hairdresser in the local area, and they reconnected and became close and eventually started dating. And then she became pregnant with what would turn out to be Chris's son, who they were going to name Chris Jr. after his father. And so her and her daughters moved in to the Brown farmhouse, and they were living as a family. For the longest time, Jordan had a room upstairs. It was a 2-story farmhouse. I'll drop some pictures here. And he had been living with, when it was just he and his dad upstairs. Well, it turns out that now that Kenzie was pregnant, they wanted to have a area, Chris and her wanted to sleep near the new baby so that they would have easy access to tend to the baby. So they had been living in a downstairs bedroom. So the decision was made shortly before the baby's birth that Jordan would basically trade bedrooms with them, that his room would become the master bedroom and that their master bedroom downstairs would be his. So they were already in the process of moving rooms. So Jordan's clothes were actually in that basement bedroom. Now, before we get to the day, but even though his parents were still sleeping there. So before we get to the actual day of the crime and what happened, I want to preface this with something and also get into a little bit of past history on this case. First of all, this does involve kind of a political topic, the political topic of guns. I will try to be as objective and nonpartisan as I can when discussing that topic, but just be aware that I really can't address this case without addressing gun safety and responsible gun handling. I am a Second Amendment advocate. I believe that it's very dangerous for only the government to have guns. So I am in full support of responsible gun ownership. However, I think that was lacking in this case. Even though I think the accused is innocent, I still think that what I saw when researching this case was bad gun handling, and I'm going to comment on that. But now, so let's go back to Christmas of 2008, when the Browns and the Hawks all got together for a holiday celebration that kind of led, according to them, Kenzie Houk's family, to start to feel a little woeful about Jordan Brown. But let's talk about that. Now, like a lot of people in western Pennsylvania, the Browns had gone turkey hunting, and evidently Jordan had shot the Thanksgiving and Christmas birds that year. In fact, he had presented Mackenzie's mother, Debbie Houk, with a fresh turkey that she froze and has later said she will never cook again, that young Jordan had shot. So Jordan, according to everyone that knew him, was a crack shot. He had there were several rifles in the house, mostly for hunting, that according to everyone, anybody could access. They were not properly stored, especially the child's rifles, which is what was supposedly the alleged murder weapon in this case. But holidays, they shot turkeys. Jordan had just participated in a shooting contest where he outperformed every other 10 or 11-year-old in his division. And now they're at Christmas with the Hawks and they're just hanging out. Well, after Jordan, Kenzie, Chris, Adelaide, and Janessa had gone home, Jason Craner, who is Kenzie's sister's husband, told Debbie Houk that Jordan had told his children that he was one day going to pop Kenzie and both the girls in the head and get rid of them. Of course, they didn't believe it. They believed that perhaps they had just had a fight that morning, and maybe he was just a little upset, if it was even said. I mean, this is hearsay from 9, 10, 11-year-olds. We don't know. But that was said. I want to put that out there. I haven't seen that in any other renditions of this case. But according to Jason Craner, brother-in-law of Kenzie Houk, Jordan did make that threat. So, but according to Chris, and according to anyone else that knew the family, Jordan was quite fond of Kenzie, called her mom, was quite excited to be having a little brother, got along well with Janessa and Adelaide, who were ages 7 and 4 at the time, and there was no issues. He wasn't even upset about having to change rooms because he was getting a much larger room. Okay, let's fast forward to February of 2009. Now, for that Christmas, Chris had gifted his son a youth-size 20-gauge shotgun, and that was later on alleged to be the murder weapon. Now, morning of February 20th, 2009, Chris Brown woke up to go to work. He worked in the shipping department of a nearby manufacturer, and Kenzie was still kind of groggy in the bed next to him. She said she didn't feel well, was having a bad bout of morning sickness. She was 8 months pregnant at the time with Chris Jr., and so she asked Chris Sr. if he could stay home that day because she really didn't feel well. But he, kind of leery of all the time he would miss after the baby was born, not wanting to put his family in financial trouble, said, no, I need to go on to work. So he kissed her, and he had gone before 8 o'clock that morning. Now, according to witnesses, which happened to be tree trimmers that were on the property, at approximately just before 9 a.m., they saw young 4-year-old Adelaide standing in the doorway of the farmhouse crying. They went over to see what was wrong, and she told them her mom was dead. They went in, saw Kenzie Houk dead in her bed, her head on her stomach, her head turned to where she might have been watching television at the time, and her obviously from a gunshot wound. So they immediately called 911 and police came. Police were immediately dispatched to Mr. Brown's place of work, where they brought him home. Upon being told that Kenzie and his unborn child were dead, He immediately collapsed in his yard in tears. Adelaide was picked up by her grandparents and was never questioned by police because, remember, she is 4, so she's not of an age where people would assume that anything she said could be held credible. Not saying that young children can't know things and can't see things, but that's not an age where people honestly say that you could rely on that testimony in a court of law. They did go to the nearby elementary school and pull both Jordan and his younger sister, 7-year-old Janessa, stepsister, out of class and brought them in for questioning. The first person they questioned was Chris Brown. They found no DNA matter that would allege that he had been anywhere near a sign of a shooting, as well as no gun residue, anything like that on him. They had records to show he had been at work since before 8 o'clock that morning. The tree trimmers said they never noticed anything weird when he left. They also said that the 2 older children, Jordan and Janessa, left for school, got on the bus about 8:15 in the morning, still nothing weird, and they did not notice young Adelaide in the doorway until almost 9. Now keep those times in your head. So Chris Brown was immediately released as being a person of interest or a suspect, and they turned their attention to the 2 children. They questioned them numerous times, at least 20 times. They were questioned without an adult present and without recording it. It was just odd that they never recorded any of the interrogations of an 11-year-old and a 7-year-old. Chris did question it, but still he was so distraught he didn't really think anything of it. According to police records, Jordan claimed that he had gotten up to go to school, that actually Janessa had woke up early and woke him up for school. He got up, he went downstairs, got his clothes, spoke to Kenzie, dressed, and then he and Janessa left for school. 7-year-old Janessa had the exact same story the majority of the times that she was questioned. However, in one of those interrogations, police officers did tell her, "Didn't Jordan play with his guns? Did Jordan kill your mother?" Very creepy the way they were planting thoughts into this young 7-year-old's head. And finally, after 20 hours of interrogation, this young girl finally said, "Yeah, I heard a blast coming from my mom's room, and Jordan walked out with his rifle and took it back upstairs." Literally what she said. After it sort of being planted in her head, obviously, by a police officer. And so just before 4 a.m. on February 21st, where Chris and Jordan were at home, they had fallen asleep, crying, detectives and state troopers burst into the house and arrested 11-year-old Jordan for the murder of Kenzie Houk, based on 7-year-old Janessa's 20th interrogation, as well as the fact is when they tested everyone, they found gun residue on Jordan's hands and clothes. However, Jordan did say in his interrogation that while he was walking toward the bus, he had a shell in one of his pockets because they had been turkey hunting on the property, and he had a shell in his pocket. He did pick it out and drop it, as well as some lint. And he and Janessa both said they also saw a black truck parked nearby. That's all they said. So, but they arrest Jordan and take him immediately to the Juvenile Detention Center in Erie, Pennsylvania. And immediately, a lot of shenanigans about this case started. First of all, they wanted to try Jordan as an adult at 11. They only had circumstantial evidence, gun residue on somebody that already said they pulled a casing out of their pocket that was left from a turkey hunt, as well as the fact that no debris, because if you blast somebody in the head at close range, you're going to have blowback of brain matter, blood, skull, everything. Some of that's going to be on you. None of that was ever found on Jordan, but yet these state troopers and these detectives took him in based on information that they essentially, according to the depositions of 𝗳𝗲𝘁, planted in her head before they arrested young Jordan. It started a nightmare for Chris and Jordan, who basically would drive to see his son at the detention center every single day. In the meantime, they also find out some other pertinent information. Remember that black truck? Well, come to find out that Kenzie's ex, named 𝗂𝗲𝗃𝗁, who was supposedly the father of her youngest daughter, Adelaide, had recently had a restraining order filed on her by Kenzie because he had openly threatened both her and the girls because he had recently found out he was not the father of her youngest child and had been paying child support. He drove a black truck that resembled what both Jordan and 𝗳𝗲𝘁 confessed as seeing outside of the farmhouse that day. However, according to detectives, they questioned 𝗂𝗲𝗃𝗁, that he was very, very open with them, very kind to them, and because he's still, the main reason they said they did not look at him as a viable suspect is the fact that his black truck, which fit the description of what Jordan and 𝗳𝗲𝘁 said they saw, as well as some of the tree trimmers said they saw a black truck, because it still had snow on it. And there's no way snow would still be on his engine if he had driven the 30 minutes to get to the farmhouse to do the deed. Snow. In western Pennsylvania in February. I have driven in Tennessee after a good dusting and still had snow on my car. What the hell? Initially, he was charged as an adult by a presiding Lawrence County, Pennsylvania judge, Dominique Motto. However, after the Pennsylvania Superior Court ruled that Motto had violated Brown's Fifth Amendment rights, he was recused from the case, and a new judge, Judge John W. Hodge, was assigned to the case and ruled that he would be tried as a juvenile. Now, according to Pennsylvania state law, he would have to be released from jail at age 21 if he was convicted as a juvenile. Well, he was convicted of Kenzie Houk's murder and served 9 years in juvenile detention. Bear in mind, the first month he was housed in an adult jail because he was going to initially be tried as an adult. In June of 2016, 7 years after his arrest, at the age of 19, he was released from juvenile custody. Judge Hodge put him on probation for the remainder of his juvenile sentence, and his two lawyers continue to file appeals in hopes that he would not now be retried as an adult. Evidently, there's some sort of law in Pennsylvania that will allow somebody, if they have served as a juvenile, they can be retried as an adult. However, on May 8th, 2013, in a second appeal to the Pennsylvania Superior Court, ruled that the assumption that Jordan was the only one that could have killed Kenzie was incorrect, and that lots of police mistakes were made during this investigation. However, more prosecution appeals came, and again, in April of 2015, the Pennsylvania Superior Court, in a split decision, said that yes, Jordan was probably the one that killed Kenzie Houk and her unborn son, but that the improper police work and improper designation of him as an adult had nullified kind of the proceedings. However, Jordan's father, Chris, who had, like I said, driven every day to see his son, over 200 miles every day, his lawyers did file a second appeal to possibly get rid of the possibility that Jordan could be tried again. And in July of 2008, just before his 21st birthday, the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania came back with a 5-0 decision saying that the case was butkus, that there were so many mistakes made, it was impossible to tell who killed Kenzie Houk and her young child and her unborn child, but it is, the evidence in no way alludes that it had to be Jordan Brown or no one else. that they made mistakes investigating 𝗂𝗲𝗃𝗃. They made mistakes in removing evidence, and the evidence they had was very circumstantial. There was no evidence that the youth 20 gauge rifle they had pegged as the murder weapon was the murder weapon, because their only evidence, aside from the fact that he had gun residue on him, an avid shooter had gun residue on him, was that that gun in particular smelled like it had been recently fired. Smelled like it had been recently fired. It was not warm. It did not have any other evidence of being fired. It just smelled stronger than the other guns. So, Supreme Court Justice Deborah Todd wrote that the Commonwealth's evidence was therefore insufficient in a matter of law and was purely circumstantial, and that they made mistakes in investigating 𝗂𝗲𝗃𝗃. The reason for not investigating 𝗂𝗲𝗃𝗃 did not hold up, and as a result, the case is completely overturned and nullified, and because of double jeopardy laws, Jordan cannot be tried again.
It's still full of sorrow, knowing that, we really won't have closure.
He was just a boy when he was convicted of killing his father's pregnant girlfriend. Now, Jordan Brown is a man, and a free one.
But his father says news of the overturned conviction is bittersweet. Chris Brown spoke today for the first time since his son Jordan's conviction was overturned.
While he says the family is happy to put this chapter behind them, he admits there is still a deep sadness for the loss they suffered. John Delano joins us now with more. John.
Well, Ken and Julie, bittersweet is the operative word, and that is exactly what Chris Brown says. For 9 years, he has stood by his son's claim of innocence, and now the state Supreme Court has exonerated his son. But the joy of that news won't bring back his fiancée, Kenzie Houk, and their unborn child. And, says Chris Brown, there is a killer still at large. At the first press conference since his conviction was unanimously overturned by the state Supreme Court, his lawyers told him not to answer questions, but Jordan Brown made a slight correction about his college major.
He'll be a sophomore here, starting back up the end of August, beginning of September, and information, not technology, information business systems. He spoke.
But that was it from Brown. He let his lawyers, Daniel 𝗟𝗍𝗄 and Stephen 𝗂𝗂𝗃, and his father, Chris, do all the talking.
We believe that there was a rush to judgment, and we also believe that he was the casualty of a system that broke down.
He's currently in college studying computer technology, living with his father Chris, still in Pennsylvania, and has committed to turning his life around and putting the past behind him. However, there are losers in this case because, of course, 𝗂𝗃𝗃 still contends, and her husband James still contend that Jordan is 200% responsible for her child's death.
Finds Jordan responsible for her death, but says he's worried because of what he says were lies told on the witness stand.
When you're in there hearing lies, it's horrible. When somebody gets up there and swears not to lie on the stand, and then they're lying, it's horrible to hear.
Adelaide and Janessa lost their mom. A lot of losers. But probably the most telling, most recent thing to come forward out of this case is 4-year-old Adelaide, remember the one that the tree trimmers saw in the doorway, has recently come forward and done her own interview, which you can find if you Google it, in which she says that she woke up due to a loud noise and immediately got out of bed and went down to see what the loud noise was, wandering into her mom's room. When she got there, her mom's cell phone was ringing, so she picked it up, and the person on the other end wanted to speak to her mom. She could not wake up her mom, and that's when she realized her mom was dead. That's when she went outside crying and got the attention of the tree trimmers, which they said was just before 9 a.m. Now remember, she says that a loud noise woke her up, and she went immediately downstairs. Now, just before 9 o'clock is when the police call came in. Now remember, due to everyone's testimony, Janessa, Jordan, the school system, the tree trimmers, both Janessa and Jordan were on the bus by 8:15 that morning. So there was no way that they were even in the house when Adelaide is now saying that she heard it, that it woke her up. So we're talking about a gunshot that probably happened somewhere between 8:45 and 9 a.m. That's what woke her up. Now that's her. I said she was 4. I don't know how, reliable that is, but that's very telling. And the fact that the police officers involved in the case, who have been sued by the Brown family for wrongful conviction and wrongful police procedure, contend that they know 100% that Jordan did it, even though their only evidence was circumstantial and, according to all police records, was almost planted testimony in a 7-year-old when they talked to Janessa. They planted the thing about Jordan threatening her mom, threatening her in her head. That is on record. I'm not making that up. So that, based on this new testimony by Adelaide, leads me to believe that Jordan was wrongfully accused for this. And also the fact, I don't think an 11-year-old could shoot someone, clean up a crime scene, clean himself up, and then still get out the door to get on the bus and still make it to school on time. The fact that Janessa was in the house, and only at the very last, when she's tired and being led, did she say she heard a gunshot blast, but she never said that the other 19 times she was interviewed. So I'm going to say that no, Jordan Brown did not do this. Who do I think did it? I don't know. But the fact that she had a restraining order on an ex whose a similar vehicle of his was found there, I think that warrants more investigation. But again, we're talking about something that's over now 12 years ago. But anyway, that's the case of Jordan Brown. I hope you enjoyed it. And I will be back very soon with another case. Until next time, keep doing crime.